Welcome to Medair Refugee Experience. We are excited that you're here today. We hope that you will enjoy our first ever virtual experience. No matter if you're watching with your family right now or if you're on your own, this experience will give you a glimpse into the life of refugees who suddenly have to flee from their home unexpectedly. So let's get straight into it.
We are going to start by telling you a little bit about Medair and the work that we do, and share a few thoughts about the situation of refugees worldwide. Medair is a humanitarian organization inspired by Christian faith to relieve human suffering in some of the world's most remote and devastated places. Since 1989, we've been helping families in crisis around the world, regardless of race, creed, or nationality, to survive and recover with dignity. We currently work in 12 countries across Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. To name a few, we currently work in South Sudan, Somalia, Lebanon, Syria, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh. As you can see on this slide, Medair provides support in 4 areas: water, sanitation, hygiene, health, nutrition, and shelter and infrastructure. Our response often touches on all of these 4 elements. So even if you provide people with excellent healthcare, they still need clean water and food too. We do whatever it takes to help people. So we often end up in some very remote, often dangerous places to help the most vulnerable. When the infrastructure is really poor, we may even have to build roads, bridges, or runways to get all the necessary supplies in. On this slide, let us now look at the current situation of displaced people around the world. So what is a displaced person? A displaced person is someone who had no other choice than to leave their home to survive. They may have been forced to leave because of natural disasters, like flooding, earthquakes, or droughts. Or they had to flee because of development and economic changes in their country. Or they might have to flee because of conflict and war. Can you guess what the most common reason for being displaced is? Conflict is the most common reason for being displaced. This includes civil war, generalized violence, or persecution on the grounds of gender, ethnicity, nationality, social group, political opinion, and religion. On this slide, you can see that there are 2 main types of forcibly displaced people: refugees and internally displaced persons. Can you guess what the difference between refugees and internally displaced people are? A refugee is a person who has to flee from his country to a different country. Refugee status is legally defined and protected by the 1951 Geneva Convention. In comparison to refugee, an internally displaced person is someone who has to flee from one place within their country to another. They are therefore not protected under the same international system as refugees. There are twice as many IDPs, internally displaced persons, as there are refugees in the world. In total, there are 70.8 million forcibly displaced people worldwide. This is higher than the population of the UK, with 66.4 million. This is a huge number, and as you can see, 52% of these are children. 1 person becomes forcibly displaced every 2 seconds. The majority of the world's refugees, 85%, continue to be hosted in developing regions. Many of these countries are already dealing with their own challenges, as you can imagine, making it particularly difficult for them to offer the refugees the aid that they need. Looking at the graph, we can see that 31% are hosted by Africa and 21% by Asia and the Pacific, whereas Europe currently only hosts 14% of all refugees. So where do refugees come from? 57% of refugees worldwide come from only 3 countries. 6.7 million currently come from Syria, 2.7 million from Afghanistan, and 2.3 million from South Sudan. To give you a bit of an impression of how a refugee camp may look like, we have compiled a couple of pictures for you. The first picture is from a UNHCR refugee camp in Jordan. The second picture is from an IDP camp in South Sudan, and the last picture is the world's largest refugee camp, Kutubalung camp in Bangladesh, where Medair also operates.
Can you imagine how it must feel to live in one of those tents, often with 10 people or more? Many families have to flee overnight and are not able to take many possessions with them. Now that we have told you a lot about refugees and the situation of refugees and internally displaced people worldwide, we would now like you to get involved. This is an interactive experience, so now it's your turn to get involved. Imagine you're at home right now and suddenly your home is being attacked. You have now 40 seconds to grab 3 items that you would like to take with you. The countdown starts now. Good luck. Welcome back. I hope you found 3 items that you were able to take with you. Remember that these are the only 3 items you were able to grab before you have to leave all of a sudden in a rush to flee to safety. You might be with other family members right now, or you might be on your own. We want you now to imagine the following scenario.
Your family has been staying at an abandoned building for the last few days after having to flee from your village. You hear that rebels are in the area and you have to move quickly. On your way to the border, you pass through many villages that have been bombed and are empty. The safest way to travel is at night. You're hungry, cold, and one of your sons have been fighting a fever. After 2 days of walking, you met smugglers who promised to take you to a safe country with job opportunities to rebuild your life. But they do not tell you which country it is or how long the journey will take. They offer you 2 options to get there, via small roads in the countryside or via boat. What would you do in this situation? What are some of the considerations that you will need to make? Are the items you picked useful in this situation? Please pause the video and discuss the emergency scenario with your family. If you're by yourself, feel free to write down your thoughts on a piece of paper.
I hope you had some time to reflect on the situation that you and your family are in. In emergency situations like that, often people have to act quickly and don't have a lot of time to make decisions.
Now that you have read the emergency scenario, would you have picked different items? How did you feel when you were put in a situation where you suddenly had to flee? How did you feel about leaving everything behind and only taking 3 items with you? Pause and take a few moments to discuss or think about these.
Now that you've experienced an emergency yourself, we would like to introduce you to a young Syrian boy who was in a very similar situation and had to suddenly flee from his home. Ali now lives in a tented settlement in Lebanon's Bekaa Valley, among thousands of other refugees. Let's have a look at his story.
بتذكر وقت كان في ضرب وهربت أنا وستي وأهلي كمان هربوا لحاله، يعني كل مين هرب لحاله وجينا على إن إحنا هون وأهلي ما بعرف ساعته وين راحوا. يعني كان يوم صعب كثير.
هناك عنا أرض عمرنا كمان وتعبنا، وبعد ما عمرنا حتى دشرنا غرامنا أن بكرة معاودين. وين ما عاودنا ولا شيء.
يعني ما نحن أني شغلت 3 أشهر 4 أشهر وبعدين بنرجع. ما شايفها مطت يعني صار شيء 3 سنين. ليت سوريا ليت للرابع. أكيد يعني إذا ما اشتغلنا ما بنعيش، يعني المدرسة ما لا راح تنفع ولا شيء. نشتغل يوم ونعطل 10 ويعني وكل نهار هون بهالخيمة، لا فلاطة ولا خوت. هوني ما ولا شيء بذكرنا بالبيت خالص، يعني بالنسبة لعادتنا هي خيم وما في شيء يعني بذكرنا بسوريا خالص.
أظن هارب بهالبراكية وين بدي أروح؟ بقعد برا شو. والمرض لاحين أنا عطول، والله خطي ما عمل أحياء الفقير هذا. بليته بحالي قاعد عنده وترك الحمل لله. وين بدنا نروح؟ استنى نتحجول كمان. وين بدنا نروح؟ وين بدنا نروح نتحجول؟
يعني إذا بنرجع سوريا ونلتم أنا وأهلي وأخواتي وقرايبيني، يعني هاي الشغلة بتبسطنا كليا. استهلكت يعني اللي مثل أمي، يعني هي هون الوحيد يعني اللي بتذكرني بأهلي، هي هون الوحيد يعني بدي أقول لهم يعني نساعد هالعالم، ويعني هن شايفين كيف الضرب، وهون يعني نحن بالشتوية المي بتصير تفوت علينا والثلج، ويعني وحالتنا ما يعني بنطلب منهم انه بيساعدونا هون بالشتوية وبغير شتوية ويساعدوا هالعالم، لأن في هون كثير عنا فقراء.
We hope you enjoyed our first ever virtual refugee experience, that you learned more about the work of Medair and how, in times of crisis, we help people like Ali all over the world. There are many more refugee stories just like his. COVID-19 is affecting all of us, and it's the most vulnerable, like refugees, who are most at risk. When COVID-19 hits the refugee camps, like it is doing right now, it will spread like wildfire. We have all been doing our bit here at home in the UK by social distancing, but that just won't be possible in the cramped refugee camps. And there is a lack of essential healthcare services for those living in refugee camps. Please help us as we respond to the COVID-19 pandemic and help vulnerable people around the world. Your support is very much appreciated and very much needed. There are different ways you can support us, through prayer, keeping in touch, or supporting us financially. Please pray for the most vulnerable, like refugees, as they face the COVID-19 pandemic and many other hardships that they are dealing with. And please pray for the Medair teams supporting the most vulnerable in the hardest of circumstances, that they will stay safe and healthy. If you're able, please provide financially to our Easter appeal. A regular gift to Medair UK by direct debit will help us to provide continuous support to the most vulnerable who are suffering during this time. Please donate via our website. Thank you for your support, your prayers, and taking part in our first ever virtual refugee experience. God bless you and your families this Easter time.